I'm Allison. Thank you for joining me for Where I'm From 181 with Tamiko. What are you reading? I am reading Animal Bodies on Death, Desire, and Other Difficulties by Suzanne Roberts, who I had the pleasure of meeting at AWP. So Bad Tourist. So now I'm reading this one, and I'm enjoying it. And it's just always a treat to. I approved. Oh, you're here. I can hear you. Hi. How are you?
Okay, how are
Good. You
you?
did it. That's the
Did it.
first
Did
challenge.
it.
And is this your first Instagram live?
Baby's first Instagram. You got to grow up sometime.
I like being a lot of people's first Instagram. Feels
Oh,
like, yeah,
yeah.
it's a lot of people. And that way, then maybe you're not so nervous the next time around.
Yeah.
I'm not nervous now.
I,
Having done it this many times, I'm just like, we'll see what happens.
yeah.
Um, but thank you for joining me. And thank you to Theo Nestor for connecting us. It's
Yes.
always nice when someone recommends somebody.
Yeah. Okay. I'm trying to do, okay. It's like, you want to share a video? I'm like, I think I do, but
I don't know what that means.
okay. Sure.
I don't know. Um, and you have a forthcoming memoir.
I do. Yes.
Congratulations. It is a big deal to write a book, and then it's a big deal to find a home for it. So congratulations, you did both.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been quite the journey. I've been working on it since 2010.
Yeah,
So,
I think that's pretty typical from the people I've talked to.
really?
I feel like, I don't know, 7 to 10 years. Like yours a bit longer, but I think everyone's like, oh, I'm gonna write this book, and it's like, I don't know,
Yeah.
it takes time.
I feel like memoir is especially tricky because, you know, there's, I don't know, it's sometimes hard to figure out the shape to put your life into.
For sure. That was my biggest challenge thus far, was just figuring out the container of,
Yeah.
because I knew I was not going to be able to do chronological because that's not really how I view my life at all or how I experience it
Yep.
presently.
Yeah. No, it was definitely one of the hardest things to figure
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
I just didn't know what to, I didn't know
Mhm.
how to make it work for the longest time. And honestly, even with, even as I got agents, even as I found a press, even as I turned it in, it still wasn't quite the right container. And
Mhm.
so, fine, well, I don't want to
Okay,
jinx things, but
we'll knock
the
on
right
wood.
container. Yeah.
Yes, and so you've turned it in. So you're,
Well, I've turned it in, and then it's a university press, and so we're waiting on some anonymous peer review that
ah,
in
interesting. Mm-hmm.
May or so.
Mm-hmm.
Trust, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
I love the university presses. Actually, the book I'm reading right now that I was just talking about,
Oh,
Suzanne Roberts, Animal Bodies, is Nebraska.
oh, that sounds so familiar. Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah,
think university presses have a bit of the luxury, right, to take
yeah,
on, you know, more on celebrity
yeah,
um,
yeah,
works and more experimental kind of risk-taking
yeah.
work. I think so something that's important.
I agree.
Um,
I mean, that's the kind of book I wrote. I would hope to find a small press, or a university press. Like, I'm
yeah,
not,
yeah,
I mean, you hope to find somebody who's excited about your work
yeah,
and, and what you're saying and how you're saying it. And yeah, in the end, I'm just kind of a nerd. Like, I like form, I like all that stuff. Like,
yeah.
I'm into it.
Me,
So
me too. Like
those books are for me.
yeah, I think, you know, being excited about experimental work is one thing, and then trying to write experimental work successfully so that it's still, it can be risk-taking in form, but also I feel like legible and
Yeah,
coherent and welcoming enough
yeah,
for
sure.
a really um, excited to go on the journey with
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Whole other
Because
thing.
ultimately, I feel this way. You want your book to be readable. You don't want it
Yeah,
to feel like a chore. Like, I read it,
exactly.
I did it. I don't want that
Yeah.
reading. I don't want somebody to have that reading experience. I would like someone to feel like, oh, I can't believe, you know,
Yeah.
I did
Exactly.
it. Like not because, I mean, and it's interesting because it is very personal. Like there are some books that I find that way that others don't. Like it's real personal.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but anyway, big
Thank
congrats to you.
you. Thank you. It's yeah. I can't believe the journey that it's been. I wrote somewhere that I kept a process journal, right?
Yeah.
Uh, for the first 7 years of writing a book, which and that process journal is almost as long as the manuscript
Hmm.
itself now.
Hmm.
So, lots of things to share along the way. Lots of interesting and times where I just put it down. It was like, no, I can't do it right now, or
Yeah.
this is just not happening,
Yeah.
or the structure's not working. It was always, almost always structure. And then I had to do some of the living, I think, and processing and
Hmm.
um, developing the writing chops that I wanted to develop.
Hmm.
Uh, I think I had to become the writer that the book needed me to be.
Yeah.
Uh, more open, more vulnerable, more risk taking, more polished, less apologetic in my voice too. I
Hmm.
think when I first started doing creative writing, it was something that I was not. I was kind of doing all this kind of hiding right behind like parentheticals and
Hmm.
asides and little light jokes because I was so nervous.
Yeah.
I think to that
And I
realm.
think we also get pressure to be lighter,
Yeah,
you know. So
yeah,
I think that some of it comes from that place too,
yeah,
of like, okay, let the reader in, I
yeah,
mean, it's all tricky, and I think that's why I'm saying, and I say congrats to I mean, because it's a hard thing to tell our own stories and to be vulnerable and to not be a victim and to not blame, but also to be honest about our
yeah.
experiences.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I'm so grateful that I'm seeing this light at the end of the tunnel, and
I
I'm
bet.
yes.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I'm glad that it's been yeah, that it's made me into the kind of writer that I wanted to be.
Hmm.
Um, and partly because it's about Japanese American wartime incarceration, I am incredibly furious that this is how relevant it
I know it's
is.
sadly so relevant.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
you keep hoping this stuff is at some point going to be hard to believe or imagine, but sadly, that's not the case.
yeah, it's not going to be for a while. It seems like I just saw the latest Supreme Court case that kind of upheld
Hmm.
um, the Enemies Act. Like, yeah, I mean, for so long it felt unthinkable, but maybe not that long, but it felt unthinkable for a little while in the grand scheme of things, and now here we are,
Hmm.
yet again. So, yeah, it's hard to hold all of those conflicting emotions too. Like
Yeah.
I'm so happy that I found agents, that I found a press, that I found people who believe in this book, and I'm so mad that people, that this is how relevant this history is. I would much prefer it to be a, wow, we couldn't think of it then. um, but um, I think also, processing all of this and writing the book has made me and being in therapy has helped me
I
think.
think it's kind of essential for
Well,
memoir writing.
yeah, yeah, right. To hold on to it at the same time.
Hmm.
Ooh,
It's a lot to
a lot
process
to
and to have in your body and in your mind. It's a lot.
gosh, yes, yeah. Thank you for
Yeah,
saying that.
because
Like,
like gotta get it out.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It'll, once it's on the shelves and in people's hands, it becomes something else.
Hmm.
So I'm also preparing for that process too, to be like, okay, now it is no longer really just mine. It really is,
Hmm.
this communal project, right? There, this
Hmm.
communal journey that we go on together. A friend of mine, Brandon Shimoda, just came out with a book about similar topics and process. He's a descendant of Japanese American wartime incarcerees too, and he said and I wrote to him, and after I finished his book, and I was like, our books are talking to each other. And he said, well, that's great. We get to be part of a choir. And that is how I hope to think about it too, that
Mm-hmm.
it's not
Mm-hmm.
just me, it's not just, these other books. It's
Mm-hmm.
a whole bunch of us who are on similar journeys. And, if you look at a lot of these journeys, then you'll get a better picture. But it's not just one of us holding
It's too
that.
much pressure.
Yeah, it's too much pressure and it's incomplete, right?
Yes, yes, definitely. I was gonna, sorry, my brain. I was like, I'm gonna say, and then poof, gone. Um, oh, I was
Interesting.
gonna ask, is that the language that you prefer? Japanese American wartime incarcerees?
Yes. Yeah. Or, wartime incarceration.
Mhm.
A lot of people still talk about
Yeah.
internment, but for the last few decades or so, the community has been saying actually internment is only accurate if you're talking about the imprisonment of our grandparents or the kind of first generation
Hmm.
folks who,
But not that, yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
incarceration is much more accurate and it's broader. And honestly, it makes people sit up differently,
Oh,
right?
I mean, I think it's very powerful. I just, as opposed to imprisonment or,
Yeah.
some people are going, with other words too. Like there's sort of the full, like spectrum of words.
Yeah.
So that's why I was asking.
Yeah. No, sure. Thank you for asking. And yeah, internment is now, it's accurate for, this,
Yeah,
that part.
that slice.
Also, I mean, incarceration really more clearly links it right to prison. Like it took me ridiculously long to think, wait a second, this was prison, this was jail. Like, because I thought of it as, camp for so
Yeah,
long that,
yeah.
you know, it,
And I think it also ties you back to the stripping of the assets and all that too, like
yeah,
which is so essential in understanding the crime.
yeah, exactly. And yeah, the stripping of the assets, the lack of, the stripping of freedoms, they
Yeah,
couldn't get in or out. They had barracks, they had searches, they had
yeah,
all these, there was barbed wire. I mean,
yeah. It wasn't fun.
it wasn't fun. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, it's so ridiculously long. I think because, well, there are lots of I won't get into here. But I think there are lots of reasons why I didn't make that connection for
I
a
mean, I
long
don't
time.
think they wanted us to make that connection. I think.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
I
and
mean, I think it was sold to us like, oh, this was a wartime measure for our safety, whatever.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I think also it's difficult to imagine how, for when it's called internment and camp and whatnot, is, you know, the terror of what that it could get worse. Like they didn't know
yeah,
what was next, what
yeah,
could possibly be next, and I think living with that terror of being in that unknown territory and nobody is really like listening to you, advocating for you, like feeling like you've been disappeared. I think that's, you know, that's the very least incarceration.
yeah, 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 and yeah, there were definitely people who helped and
Right.
advocated outside, but those were really all too few, right?
Right. And they weren't really being listened to. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm guessing they were considered anti-American because everything was considered anti-American at
anti-American.
that
Yeah,
time.
yeah, exactly. I mean, there are these. One, there's a story of a Mexican American kid who went to camp because his friends were there and he knew that it was wrong. It was just like
Wow.
that
Well,
is yeah. His name is Ralph Lasso. I really hope that people find out more about him too. But yeah, it's all and then the community sort of buried it with decades of silence and
yeah.
larger forces buried it with so there were all these things that were conspiring, right, to make it a hidden story. And even, on in different parts of the country, you'll still hear this like, wait, what? We had camps? Like
Yeah.
there are
Mm-hmm.
people who really had a really small window into what that means. So yeah, I mean, the hope is that, we just keep getting to tell the story and hopefully more people learn about it and learn
Mm-hmm.
from it and take action. Learn. But it's been a decades long struggle. So, I'm just happy to be part of that as well.
Well, thank you for all your work and speaking about it and raising awareness around it because I think it is sometimes easy to think things are the worst they've ever been and all that, and it's like, well,
Yeah.
yeah. We have a long history of doing terrible things to people. So it's I it's just important to know it's woven into the fabric of our nation.
Yeah.
It's not just a thing that's happening now.
Yeah. Agreed. Thank you.
So your poem, your Where I'm From poem, is actually an excerpt from your memoir.
That,
So that's a wonderful segue.
yeah. Oh, you froze for a second, but here you
Oh,
are. Oh,
yeah.
um, yeah. Yeah. So it's my memoir is called "A Place for What We Lose: A Daughter's Return to Chile Lake." It's coming out, we hope, sometime next year from the University of Washington Press. And it's not really it's sort of a prose poem, a lyrical passage that I call Welcome Mat. And so, yeah, if you're ready, I can go ahead and
Please.
um, 1973 to 1984, Welcome Mat. 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, 1350 square feet. A Rummer style bungalow that my dad and his brother built in 1958. My dad had the optimism and audacity and resources to build his own house in the Sacramento area in Roseville, California, a predominantly white town founded by miners and railroad workers on stolen Maidu land. By the time I was born in 1973, the house and its surrounding garden contained elements my parents treasured the most about their respective cultures. My mom had adopted the yard and planted or nurtured trees that you could eat from right away. She'd left the Philippines as a 10-year-old child in the 1950s, but before that, her favorite memories were of climbing trees and picking fruit in her grandfather's orchards. Adopted by her biological mother's cousin and husband in the U.S. Army, she left the Philippines, not knowing that she would not return. My dad had filled the house with warm wood cabinets, a large china cabinet with Japanese dish sets and dolls. He'd hung painted folding screens on the walls and windows. Butter yellow stucco outer walls, chocolate brown trim. You couldn't enter my childhood house without going through a small jungle, orchard, forest of plants. The row of pineapple guava bushes next to the street, the row of trees next to the driveway where my mom would tell me to pick bay leaves for adobo. The pine tree arching over most of the front yard, and unruly carpet of ivy under the tree instead of lawn. The orange trees that produced the sweetest fruit because of the fish emulsion my mom would feed it each spring. The persimmon and grapefruit trees that dropped their amber and coral fruit onto the concrete surrounding their trunks. The heavenly bamboo plant just beneath the brown house number 230. And the bamboo patch next to the small square pond where large goldfish darted among lotus flowers and lily pads. Instead of a front door facing the street, there was a row of floor-to-ceiling windows and a sliding glass door that hissed gently along its rails when we opened it to let in the Northern California air. I used to set a book and a blanket in front of the door and wait for my dad's rust-colored Datsun B210 to pull up in the driveway when he got home from work. My mom placed a wind chime, later a cowbell, on the front door, so something would always ring when you opened the front door. To have any light in the kitchen, you had to flip a switch near the front door and wait for the fluorescent bulb to flicker overhead with light. The kitchen was a galley style with lots of olive green appliances, silver crescent drawer pulls, and a paisley olive linoleum floor. Instead of a kitchen window, my dad had covered a pane of glass with white washi paper, with red and green Japanese maple leaves, and angled the glass over a light fixture over the sink. A pothos snake plant vined its way around the trellis stretched over the cabinets. The floor always had piles and piles of shoes, since we always took off our shoes before coming all the way into the house. The kitchen had an open view of the dining room where you'd see the expandable oak table and 4 mid-century modern chairs, elegant wooden oval black backs, black vinyl seats. The dining room table was the setting for our nightly family dinners, where my dad cooked sukiyaki dinner for guests, my mom made sinigang when I was sick, and both of them made biscuit pancakes on Sundays. The den was occupied by a huge Tansu-style cabinet that housed my dad's record collection and his record player. A librarian even at home, he'd organized the records by genre and composer, from opera through folk music through musicals and pop. I learned very early how to hold a record by the edges, set it down on the record player spindle, wait for the turntable to spin and the needle to open worlds in song. The light in that house is the one thing that I remember the most. The quality of sunlight warming the paper of our Japanese American shoji screens. The light and the vaulted knotty pine ceilings that opened up that bungalow living room. The way the pine tree outside cast shadows that created brush paintings onto the shoji screens. The house was not a space for hiding or flaunting, but a space for protecting what my parents loved and needed the most. As a child, I didn't remember what a small miracle that home was, a product of not just one, but two immigrant cultures, a place where fermented shrimp paste and soy sauce could live next to each other in the refrigerator door, a place where my parents had fought to carve out their American dream and plant American roots, despite my father's sharecropping past, his 4 years of wartime imprisonment, and my mother's life of uprooting, first as an immigrant and then as an army brat. For the first 10 years of my life, it was where I felt safest and loved and proud of being Japanese, Filipina. Thank you.
It's really beautiful.
Oh, thank
Uh,
you.
um, yeah, I wanted to go to that house.
Right?
I mean, it sounds really magical. We have planted some fruit trees for the same reason. There's something just special about having fruit right by your home, and I need to do a fish emulsion on our orange tree.
Uh, yeah. I mean, she was like sort of, leftover fish bits,
Yeah,
right? And just kind of
yeah.
very,
I was like, oh, I need to do
yeah,
that. That's a really good idea.
yeah.
And I just loved how safe you felt there, and that it was such a celebration of your parents and their cultures, and that you weren't trying to hide. That was kind of what choked me up. Is like,
Mm.
um, how powerful for your father to go from being in prison to being proud of, and to wear it so proudly. Like, the the shoe pile, the screens, like it just all of it. Like the koi. Um, I live in it was originally all Japanese American, the neighborhood I lived in. So it made me think a lot of my neighbors. um, and they're, a lot of them are still there,
Wow.
probably similar to your father's age, and
Yeah. Where's the neighborhood that you're
it's in
talking about?
Los Angeles.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, and it was a lot of farmers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I bought their first house near the bean fields.
Of course.
Yeah,
Oh, that's so great.
yeah,
Yeah. No, they're really magical about it. It wasn't something that I really realized until my mom sold it,
yeah.
and it was like, wow, it was a really special little place. Like you,
Yeah. And I don't know, this is all just made me think of it too. In this neighborhood, there was a guy who sold plumeria,
oh,
like somebody, I don't know who. So pretty much every house had them,
wow,
because somebody had a deal or whatever.
that's
Um,
very beautiful.
I
So it must,
love it. I
it
mean, we have it and I love it. We have two
really,
big ones. Yeah, because they're that old. And yeah, it's just, I don't know. It just makes me think of them all settling here.
oh,
And one of them knew somebody and they all planted
yes,
it. And I
so
just,
I love
sweet.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. Whenever I see them, I just, oh, sweet. Um, but yeah, it just felt like such a love letter.
It was, yeah. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
So it's nice. I don't know. It feels kind of like special when you get to listen to someone's love letter.
Yeah, I mean, So I have a friend who's coming out with her own memoir next year, Renee Sims, and she did a similar section in her book um, about her childhood house. And I think I was really influenced by her writing when I wrote this section because I was like, yeah, what was that like? And yeah, just all the sensory details of growing up in a house like that were just really,
I bet the food
really,
was delicious.
it was really
Yeah,
good.
that,
Yeah.
that too. Like, I want, I want, I want to eat the fruit. I want to eat the food. I want to hang out. This sounds like a really
Yeah.
special place, and yeah, I just admire anybody who's willing to just be themselves. You know,
Yeah. Same.
it's not easy.
Yeah, no. I mean, I think I'm still learning that lesson, honestly.
Oh, sure. I think it's lifelong.
Yeah, but yeah, writing memoir will teach you certain things about that too.
Yeah, yeah. I was just earlier saying, once I embrace that I'm just weird, like I'm just weird. I think we probably all are, but that I'm not gonna fit in some way. Like
Yeah.
it's very liberating.
Yeah, or you find your own tribe of weirdos,
Yes,
right?
yes, yes. And you all accept each other's because you're weird in
Yeah.
different ways, but you love each other for that. Um, it's nice. So usually I ask, what was the experience like you writing the poem? We sort of talked a lot about that before you read
Yeah.
it, but if you had anything you wanted to add about the specific section, or you were saying, you also said your inspiration, or that Renee was a nudge.
Yeah, Renee was definitely a nudge. Thank you, Renee. I really it was actually a really lovely space because I wrote it sort of late in the process of writing the memoir. Um, there's a section later in the memoir where my house does not quite feel so safe,
Mm-hmm.
and um, I realized that in order for people to feel feel that change, I had to paint, a picture
Mm-hmm.
of,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
what home was like
yeah.
before I
Mm-hmm.
got there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I just kind of let myself sit, with my eyes closed, just kind of sitting there, like, what are those things that I tasted? What are those things that I remember, that I heard, that I smelled, that I saw the most? And that helped me really drive drive the section home.
Well, I mean, it's lovely. I look forward to reading your book. If there's anything else, we've sort of done our half hour, so, but if there's anything else you want to talk about, I'm here. But I just want to say, I've really enjoyed this. I'm so glad you joined me. I look forward to reading your book. It sounds right up my alley. So, I'm just like wishing you all the best with it and the peer review and everything. I feel like it's just really vulnerable.
Yeah, it is. I hope that people see it as a gift to them, like not
Mhm.
not in any like sort of arrogant way, but sort of I've made something
Yeah.
with, and I hope that you receive it as something from the heart as well. There's a picture that I have in my office here of me as a little kid, uh, reminding me of who I am at my core, and I wrote underneath it, I'm just a little girl who likes to make things and give them to
Mhm.
and I think that's still true. So I hope that that's how people receive it, that, it's something that little girl me made, that grown up me made, that I'm giving to people. And I hope they get something out of it too.
I'm sure they will. And I think it's also for me, honestly, what keeps me going is not like you say ego, but this like book saved me.
Exactly.
Books showed me a way forward, and you think, well, if I like did that, or if I just made somebody feel mirrored in some way,
Yeah, same. Absolutely.
that I'm grateful for all the mirrors that I've had the luck of reading and that have made me feel less alone. Um,
Yeah.
and I have no doubt your book will really help a lot of people who probably can't dig into their, ancestry in the way that you've been able to because of the work you've done and because of who you are. They'll be able to learn or to be seen from your work, and that is so valuable.
Yeah, that is really one of my deepest wishes and hopes.
I'm sure. I mean, because not everybody could go on the journey you went on to heal your and think and do
Yeah,
like that's a real journey.
it is a real journey. It's been
Yeah.
quite a long time.
So yeah.
Thank
You
you.
just hope it gets into the right hands, right? That's all you ever hope.
I hope readers, I hope it's
Yeah.
well in the world when it's, when I finally leave it, when I finally let
Yeah.
it go. But yeah, but really, like, thank you so much for reaching out. I'm so thrilled that you're up for deviating a bit from the where I'm from.
Yeah. Yes, I'm
Or,
a rule breaker.
yeah, but I hope that you can hear that it really is like this is where I'm from.
Yes. Oh, yes. I definitely can. I mean, and I was thinking about it while you were reading it, like, oh, this is this part of the, because I'm very familiar with the prompt at this
Yes.
point, so it's like, oh, this is like this, the smell. Oh, because really it's just like you say, it's about sensory
Hmm.
details. I mean, that's what it's about.
Yeah.
And it's about getting in touch with also, like you said, that little girl you have a picture of. I think that's what it's about.
Yeah.
And getting in touch with that little girl that I am and was like, it's been so good for me because she's a brave little girl,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I've worked really hard to do right by her, and
Yeah. Yeah. And look at her
yeah,
now,
right.
right?
So
So great.
anyway, yeah, and no, I do really see how it fits in perfectly, so I can see why you were like, hey, what about this?
Yeah.
Um, well, thank you so much for your time, and
Uh,
best of luck with
thank
everything.
you so much. I really appreciate it.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.